Episode 55, Heart for Excellence, with none other Mr. Marek Rudak.
Oh,
I'm still working on saying your name right.
I thought you were going to say Gordy first.
No, because we're going to say the esteemed Mr. Gordy Bunch.
I don't need a pestle.
Chairman of the Woodlands Township and CEO of the Woodlands Financial Group, or TWFG Insurance. So last episode, we're kind of talking some of the struggles in business, in career, our professional lives. And really, it's a cutthroat world. If you're going to try to climb, if you're going to grow a business, it can be really cutthroat.
Yeah.
And you were sharing, Gordy, you experienced that firsthand. And the process of that and going through it, how it really can be acidic in relationships, not just with those that have done you wrong professionally, but how it can even affect our lives at home. And even more specifically, a relationship with our wives.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you can pick it up from there. You were talking about, and thanks for being candid, about even going to counseling and trying to work through and understand and hear Michelle's, what she was going through during that time. If you can pick it up from there, maybe elaborate on that without, breaking confidence of anything Michelle wouldn't want you to share.
Sure.
But if you can pick it up from there.
I mean, first, I think that our wives are probably more emotionally intuitive and emotionally present than most of us men are. And, I think a lot of men put off counseling as, I really don't need that. You go do it.
There's nothing wrong with me. If you want to go, you go.
Go fix yourself.
Yeah.
And I'll be here when you come back. Because remember, I'm awesome. I'm a hero. And
I'm the knight in shining armor.
I got it. I'm under complete control, and I don't need anything. That's hard whenever your marriage is having a challenge and you're not willing to engage. The message sent back is, I don't need you, I don't want you, I don't care about you. Mm-hmm. And that may not even be what you're saying. But unfortunately for us, we're poor translators of what our wives need. Mm-hmm. And so when they come to us, we, as most men, or at least I did, my natural is defense, deflect, defer, and refer back.
Yeah.
Because that's where the problem really is.
Yeah. Punch back. Yeah.
We relate very well with that.
Yeah. So, to move us, on, it took a lot of different counselors that we worked with. We actually even had a counselor fire us because we were too far gone, to be dealt with. And we both walked out of there going, what a weak guy.
Wow.
This is your profession and you quit after the first meeting? Wow. So you need to actually get referrals from qualified people. Yeah. And you need to when you have any kind of marital issue, to only have qualified conversations. So let me give you some tips on what that is. If you're having a marital relationship issue, you don't talk to your friend who's been divorced 4 times for advice. Right? Even if you're dealing with it and you have family members that have been divorced multiple times or have other bad relationships, probably not the people to seek advice from. What really started us back on the path is as we were seeing secular counselors and not getting anywhere, we decided, okay, well, let's try the church. And so our church counselor, who's still in the area, Stu Grant, over at the Woodlands United Methodist Church, really kind of slowed us down a little bit, and went from a secular counseling to more of a biblical counseling, and more, changing kind of how we view each other and how we communicate to each other, because you can build up bad habits.
Oh yeah,
right, and circular conversations that seem to repeat themselves every day or every week, every month, because we just have our natural, ready-made responses to what we perceive that the other person's going to say. And even though we got married and we were committed to each other to death do us part, I don't think either one of us had ever prayed for each other or for our own marriage up until the point where Stu hands us each a little prayer thing, and it's basically, here are prayers that I want you to say for your wife for the next month.
Wow.
Here are prayers I want you to say for your husband for the next month. And so, I took my little prayer bracelet thing, and I was like, this is weird.
Awkward.
It was, and I grew up Catholic, and Catholics were not all Catholics are the same, but I grew up Catholic, and went to Catholic school, and my confession was with a priest.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I had to share with anybody else, so I wasn't very sharing, and so although I would have my own conversations with God, I wasn't having any of those with her.
Right.
At all. And so we got those things. I started praying for her. She started praying for me. As you start praying for another person, your empathy starts to open up. Because now you're verbalizing positive outcomes for the person that you have been in a seemingly adverse relationship with, who's supposed to be the closest person to you outside of God.
Right. And we're bringing in even a spiritual component. I think probably we all would agree at this table that there's a spiritual component to us. There is a spirit.
Yeah.
And by bringing prayers into it, and you're praying for your spouse, which we don't do enough of as husbands. Probably don't pray for our wives as much as we should. But when you start praying, you bring God into it. You bring the creator of the universe into the marriage. Pretty powerful.
So that was very helpful. And he referred us to faith-based counselors that
I see.
had their point in time benefit to us, and eventually went to this retreat in Missouri, which was the Smalley Marriage Institute.
Yeah.
We went to the intensive program because I wanted to get fixed in a weekend instead of having to drag out for a year.
Yeah.
So anybody that's on the borderline and needs a jolt, the Smalley Marriage Institute intensive program is really our pivot point.
Wow.
It just broke down, years of walls and resentment, and when you tear those things down, you can finally see, oh, this is the person I married.
Wow.
Is still there.
How many years of marriage were you into it at this point?
7, 8.
So relatively new in marriage. 7, 8 years.
You look at the statistics. That 5th to 7th year is usually a deal breaker.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate to get the right help and be open to it.
So you said something in the first podcast that kind of triggers me, and again, we can go in a different direction too, right? About being a rabbit. You used the word rabid workaholic. Sorry, just clarify that. Workaholic. Rabid workaholic.
Right.
Where did that come from? Because when you use that term, I mean, we go to work, that's what we do. But when you use those words to describe it, it sets it off in a different tone. Can you explain, maybe what you mean by that, or why were you then the rabid workaholic?
Well, I came out of the military as an enlisted guy. I did use my GI Bill to go back to school, but I didn't have a degree. I didn't have a master's. I didn't have anything. So the world in the early 90s is you're not going to be successful, right? And there was actually some commentary made by some family members about how unsuccessful we were going to be and how we'd be living in a trailer park. And
So you heard this being spoken of you.
Yes.
And how old were you at that point?
22, 23.
And it stayed with you.
I'd always knew I would do well, but it was offensive. And, the world tells you if you don't do this or that, you have no probability of success.
Yeah.
And so my life mission was to prove all these people wrong.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not a conformist. I'm different.
Yeah.
And so, fortunate I landed in, I call it divine intervention. I did not choose insurance. Insurance chose me.
Yeah.
I never applied for a job in this industry. My resume ends up in the wrong P.O. box, and I get offered a job in insurance. And, today, doing very well with it.
Yeah.
But that's God's hand saying, here, do this. And I was like, this isn't even on my list. But, so to me, failure was not an option. right? I was going to be successful, regardless. And in order to do that, I set forth, committing to the work I had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when your commitment to your work is greater than your commitment to your marriage and to your family and to your friends, it becomes a negative, right? You're completely out of balance.
Yeah.
And so, read the Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah, Rick Warren.
Yes,
Which kind of, as you get through those 40 days, you're like, jeez, I'm out of balance. Way out of balance. It would be nothing for me to work every day. Nothing. It wouldn't even bother me. It wouldn't even faze me.
Okay, so how's that affecting your home life then? Marriage specifically.
At the time, it was pretty apparent to her or to anyone that I would rather go to work and do work things than be physically, emotionally present.
Does a lot of that stem, though, from the words you heard or the way we grow up? I find that... So I went to marriage counseling. It didn't work for me. The counselor basically fired us, too, in my first marriage, right? But what I discovered, so we had multiple counselors over a span of maybe 4 years in that time frame. And what I ultimately discovered was I didn't need marriage counseling because we all go into marriage thinking, I love this woman. I'll give my life for her. I will be the knight. I will take a sword for her. I'll die for her, right? We do that. We go into marriage like that. And then we find ourselves becoming adversarial.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre. But what I realized, it wasn't the marriage. We all agreed we wanted to love each other, care for each other, and the vows. And it was little boy counseling is what I needed. Like the injuries that I incurred as a little guy that created insecurity.
Right.
It was those issues I brought into my adulthood because I never addressed those issues. I just stuffed them. And that impacted my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say, were there things in your past growing up that drove you to say, I will not be a failure, I will be successful in whatever that looked like in your mind, that maybe created that imagery in your mind to say, I've got to basically work crazy hours 7 days a week if I could?
Yeah, I mean, my mother was great. She always told us we could do anything and accomplish anything that we worked and put our heart and minds and effort into. So I didn't have any negative, messaging from my own mom or from my dad. The school system, thought I was dumb.
Was it because of your grades or what teachers said?
It was really grades.
Right.
Yeah, I was not a good student, but I was not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I took the ASVAB going into the military that anybody ever said, damn, you're smart. They're like, wow, you qualify for whatever you want to do. You want to be a nuclear subtech? Go ahead. And, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've been told I was dumb this whole time.
Yeah.
And, but you can't blame them. That's just the way the system was set up.
Yeah.
But the message in the 80s, as you're growing up, is if you don't go to college and get a 4-year degree, you're going to be a busboy, dishwasher, burger flipper.
Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't help that I ran, I was a manager at McDonald's and a manager at a pizza restaurant. Completely fulfilling my destiny as prescribed.
Proving the point.
But I did 2 of them. I had one at both restaurants. And, when I went in the Coast Guard and started being able to do things that, okay, now I'm being given responsibilities and opportunities that a 19-year-old doesn't get in the real world. Because in the real world, at 19, you're still not qualified for anything until you got a degree or certificate or something, right? And so the military gave me opportunities to, one, get constant reinforcement that I actually was capable of doing more than my GPA would have indicated. And in that environment, you can thrive if you're able to perform. And so my confidence was really getting built up there by what my leadership was allowing me to do. They'd send me to schools that I shouldn't have been able to go to at my rate.
Wow.
And, and I kept passing and doing well, and they're like, we're just going to keep sending you off because you're becoming a better asset to our unit. And so that was extremely helpful for me to build up the confidence. I think the commentary I was mentioning to you, it was Michelle's dad who made that comment, and we're very close now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, wow, you really don't know me.
It's interesting how we respond to that. But basically, I think as men, we don't want to be ever. We'll stuff the feelings, even if we feel like a failure. We're going to stuff it and act like we're successful.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, you're doing all this crazy work. You build an amazing company here. I'm glad to be a part of it, like I said. But at home, it's a stress on the marriage. So at some point, how many years was that before you realized, yeah, we're going to go to marriage counseling. I'm going to drop my pride because maybe there are some issues with me, not just my spouse. And we're going to go take care of this.
Yeah.
Maybe with our last few minutes here, if you can hit on that.
Yeah. So it was from that marriage retreat that we did with the Smalleys and the purpose-driven life,
Which was about 7-8 years into the marriage.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, and just having to work through that, we made major headway. In really a shorter period of time in that environment than we did the 3 years prior.
Yeah.
And so, when you let God in, all of a sudden things started moving, right? I think you could see each of us changing for the better. Eventually we started praying together instead of separately.
Yeah.
And we actually pray together every night now.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
up until the point where we started getting Christian-based counseling versus secular-based counseling, started getting, you do need to pray for each other, you do need to pray for your marriage, you do need to think about things outside of just yourself.
Yeah.
We were just spinning our wheels. But as God came in and as we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable to each other,
Yeah.
the next time
That's powerful.
someone stole $1 million from us, I didn't go into litigation. She didn't lose her mind. We both just looked at each other and said, well, that sucks. But, good thing God's got us in a position to absorb that and move forward, because what we have ahead of us is better than chasing that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And, I've been able to advise people that have come out of similar situations that we had with the first company and say, you know what, litigation, you may be absolutely right, but it may be absolutely destructive to your future if you sit there and focus on the past. And I can say it with credibility because I've been there
Yeah.
and seen. Because what happens is these folks get catatonic, thinking they're going to get some major payout from a litigated event, and they don't move forward in life. And then if it does occur, then it's a quick windfall, but they're not really established beyond that.
Yeah.
I said, you got to reestablish yourself. You got to recreate your finances. You got to be solvent in spite of what occurred. And so some people have actually taken my advice and like, yeah, you know what? After a year, you're right. Just focused on that. And so, yeah, obviously, I think for us, without God being introduced back into the marriage beyond just our wedding vows, because we went to church, but we really didn't go to church with effort.
It was more traditional.
It was more, we would go.
Yeah.
Even when we were in small groups, but we weren't like engaging with each other outside of that.
It's amazing when you bring God into the equation of your life, of my life, our lives. We start seeing things differently. Like if God gives the increase, so man can take what they want, but God still gives the increase. It takes that pressure off. Like I always got to defend myself. I've got to protect myself. Me.
Yeah.
Versus learning how to let go and just go, okay, if God's in control here, what's the best thing for him, for me, which will equate to good for my family that's around me.
Right.
And having that ability or to just trust God in those moments, I think is powerful and freeing. Because litigation, I think, is a pretty stressful event.
It is, but, I think some people have other instances in their lives where that's something they actually have to do.
Yes, yeah, maybe that needs...
But I think what the healthy way to approach it is, we had our real estate transaction that did not go well, and we ended up supporting another 150 families in their efforts to be indemnified. Yeah. And none of us ended up with anything. And, we funded the whole thing, not just for our own benefit, to help these other families out. don't exactly know why. Ourselves and the other folks were not indemnified, but we're happy that the only people out actual cost was us, and tried to help others in that course. And we could have easily not done that, but we, I guess, matured enough to say it's not just about us, and we will help others if we can. And if the outcomes aren't the outcomes, then that is what it is. But we're not holding on to any anger like we did in the first instance. Right?
Learning how to let go.
And then maybe just one last question as we're wrapping up, Gordy, because obviously you got there through a lot of scars. But I was just wondering if you could talk to your younger self, if there was something some piece of advice that could have helped you get there sooner, especially for us listeners. If that was one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, we are all already talking to our younger selves when we're talking to our kids. And, some of the things that now come up are our kids are aging. So I'm seeing myself reappear. And I think that pre-marriage, I think the counseling and the workbooks that the church gives you to actually work on together.
Actually do them.
Should actually be done.
Don't just stuff them.
Now, I did have legitimate reasons for not participating. I was deployed and unavailable physically. But we were handed a book by our church when it's like, here's things you need to do together before you get married. We didn't decide on a particular church before we got married. I was Catholic. She went to a Methodist church. It wasn't until years later we were like, all right, we're going to go to the Methodist church. So that's a big decision for you as you're coming together. You got to find the right people to be around, right? People of the same faith, same moral character, same direction in life. And surround yourself by those types of folks. Sorry about that.
Is background music.
Is that a not so subtle hint that our time is up?
Well, we'll let that roll off, I guess, because it's too far to go have it. Gotta love iPhones. Yes, I tell everybody that 100% of what we have today came from God.
Right.
And, I had God in isolation. Now I have God in relationship. And so as we pray every night, for our friends and our family, we pray for this company, we pray for everybody who works here, we pray for our community. As I go into doing stuff, either politically or in business, I pray for God's will, not mine. And, that's a comforting way to move forward. But we're doing it together.
That's powerful. Okay, so I've got one last. I got to ask one hard question here. So you went to marriage counseling. Your time there, what would you say is the biggest realization you had that you own? It was your stuff. What was the one thing that you would say from that time that you went, man, that's me. I need to own it.
Well, I mean, really, I was completely oblivious to how she felt, and how kind of condescending I was coming off as, where I thought I was doing all the right things from a society viewpoint. You'd be like, yeah, how can you not love this dude? He's providing. You don't have to have a job. You can stay at home with the kids. Yeah. This guy's knocking it out of the park. That's how I felt.
You checked the boxes.
I was validating myself. Yeah. Without checking in and actually being, physically and or emotionally present, because I was prioritizing work over everything. Yeah. And that's hard. When you start trying to rebalance yourself. That's doing the township is I work for free. Yeah, that's not something I would have done, 10 years ago. I would not give my time away because my time was prioritized towards earning. Yeah. Now I give away a substantial amount of time to the community. Good. Yeah. Lord, they really want to talk.
Well, it sounds like in essence you redefined what success is. It looks different now.
Right.
Beautiful. Gordy, thank you so much for being on Heart for Excellence. Thank you for the closing music as we wrap up this 55th episode of Heart for Excellence.
10-1 odds, that's my wife.
All right. We don't want to get you in trouble. Thank you, Gordy.
Thanks, guys.
No, it's all good.